I never thought I would be the kind of man who tells his story like this. I always believed that betrayal was something that happened to other people, men who never paid enough attention, men who forgot anniversaries, men who worked too much or loved too little. I thought I wasn't one of them. I thought I was different. I thought we were different. My name is Daniel. I'm 33, and until a few months ago, I was convinced I had built a life that made sense. I worked, I cared, I did everything I could to be the kind of partner she deserved, or at least, the kind of partner I believed she wanted. But now, when I look back, I see the cracks that had been there all along, quiet cracks, barely visible, forming slowly, like the slow cooling of glass after a fire. Cracks I refused to see because I didn't want to imagine the truth behind them. Her name was Emma. At least, that's who she was to me, my Emma. We met 6 years ago, in a bookstore cafe of all places. She was flipping through some overpriced magazine, and I pretended I needed her table's outlet to charge my laptop. She smiled like I was amusing, and somehow that small moment became a beginning, a soft beginning, a good one. The kind of memory people cling to when the future becomes unbearable to face. 4 years, our life was quiet, steady. We weren't dramatic. We didn't shout. We didn't break things. We had routines: morning coffee, late night talks, weekend road trips. I remember thinking once that our lives felt like a still lake at sunrise. Peaceful, safe. But lakes hide deep water. Everything started to shift about 8 months ago. Nothing big at first, just small things. Her phone turning over on the table, notifications muted, a shower taken with the bathroom door locked, a new perfume she claimed she just wanted to try, though she never wore scents before, a subtle distance in her eyes when she laughed at my jokes. And the silences. God, the silences. Silences that stretched a little too long when I asked about her day. Silences before she answered simple questions. Silences between kisses. Silences that felt like someone else's shadow standing in the room with us. I kept telling myself it was stress, work, fatigue, anything but what it actually was. When you love someone deeply, you'll choose the lie every time, as long as it keeps the world from falling apart. I chose the lie so many times that I started mistaking it for truth. The day everything truly started unraveling was a Thursday, a meaningless day, ordinary, forgettable until it wasn't. I came home early from work because a client meeting was canceled. I remember thinking I'd surprise her, maybe take her out to dinner, do something spontaneous like we used to. I didn't call. I didn't text. I wanted that moment where she looked up and smiled because she didn't expect me yet. But when I opened the door, there was no smile. There was only the sound of her voice from the bedroom, soft, quiet, intimate, a voice she didn't use with me anymore. At first, I thought she was on a work call, but then she laughed, a soft, breathy laugh, a laugh that made something inside my chest tighten so suddenly that I couldn't breathe. I stood there, frozen, listening. I didn't hear a second voice, but the tone. God, I knew that tone. The way she spoke when she wasn't trying to impress anyone. The way she whispered when she was comfortable. Too comfortable. By the time she stepped out of the bedroom, holding her phone too close, her cheeks slightly flushed, her hair slightly messy, I already knew. Not the details, not yet, but something inside me shifted. Something broke. She looked at me like she'd seen a ghost. "Oh, you're home early," she said. Just that. Not a single step toward me. Not a single kiss. Not even guilt in her eyes, just panic. A quiet, restrained panic. The kind you feel when you get caught with something you can't hide anymore. I didn't ask anything. I didn't want to start a war without evidence. So, I kissed her on the forehead, pretending I didn't notice anything. She flinched. It was small, barely noticeable, but I felt it. That night, she turned away from me in bed, and when she thought I was asleep, she picked up her phone and went to the kitchen. I followed her quietly, careful not to make a sound. She spoke in a whisper, whispers meant for someone else. Words I couldn't make out, but the softness was unmistakable. That was the moment my trust finally cracked. The next week was hell. Every detail became suspicious. Every smile became a lie. Every minute she was late coming home felt like an hour spent with someone else. I memorized the way she typed, the time her screen lit up, the clothes she chose. I became a man I didn't recognize, watchful, paranoid, hurting with every breath. But the moment that carved itself into my bones happened 3 days later. We were getting ready to go to a friend's birthday party. She wore a dress I hadn't seen before, tight, elegant, meant to impress someone. Not me. I could tell by the way she looked at herself in the mirror. She wasn't wondering if I would like it. She was imagining someone else's eyes. On the way out the door, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and smiled softly, involuntarily, beautifully. A smile she no longer gave me. That was when something inside me changed, completely, irreversibly. Not anger. Not yet. But something colder. Something that whispered, "You're losing her." And she isn't fighting it. That night, at the party, she kept stepping outside to take calls. And when someone asked where she was, I heard myself say, "Probably with someone more interesting." People laugh, thinking it was a joke. I didn't, and so, sitting there alone with a drink in my hand, in a room full of people who had no idea what was happening, I realized something I never thought I'd have to admit. I was already grieving a woman who was still alive. I just didn't know how much worse it would get. The day after the party, I woke up with a dull heaviness in my chest, the kind that wraps itself around your ribs and doesn't let go. Emma was already up, already dressed, already pretending everything was fine. She moved around the kitchen like a quiet storm, fast, focused, distant. She poured herself coffee but didn't pour any for me. Something she always used to do. I stood in the doorway just watching her, trying to recognize the woman I once believed I knew better than myself. But she didn't look like my Emma anymore. Her smile, when she finally turned and noticed me, was stiff, forced, like a mask she hadn't learned how to wear correctly. "Morning," she said. Not meeting my eyes. "Morning." My voice sounded strange, unfamiliar. She grabbed her bag, checked her phone twice, then slipped it inside. "I'll be home late." A team meeting got moved. I nodded, though we both knew I didn't believe her. She hesitated by the door for half a second. Maybe she wanted me to stop her. Maybe she expected me to question her. Or maybe I was imagining all of it. Then she left, and the apartment felt emptier than it ever had before. I sat at the table for a long time, staring at the place where her coffee cup had been. Something inside me twisted, quietly, sharply. I couldn't keep pretending not to see it. I couldn't keep lying to myself. Whatever she was hiding wasn't small. It wasn't harmless. It was something that had already taken a piece of her away from me. By noon, I decided I needed answers. Not assumptions. Not guesses. Answers. I went into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. Her side smelled like the new perfume, the one she claimed was just a change of style. But I could smell the truth in it now. It wasn't hers. It wasn't chosen for her. It was chosen for him. Her nightstand drawer was half open. She never left it open. Not once in 6 years. I reached for it with shaking hands, hesitating before I touched it. This wasn't who I was. I wasn't the man who checked drawers, who searched for clues like some paranoid detective. But love makes you blind, and suspicion makes you cruel. I had become both. Inside the drawer, everything looked normal at first: hair ties, lip balm, a folded sweater. But there was a small velvet pouch underneath, tucked far in the back. I pulled it out slowly, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Inside was a necklace. Not just any necklace, a delicate silver chain with a small, engraved pendant shaped like a half-moon. I'd never seen it before, never given it to her, never heard her talk about it. And on the back of the pendant were 2 letters. Not E for Emma, not my initial. 2 letters that meant nothing to me and everything to her. My hands went cold. I put the necklace back exactly where I found it and closed the drawer. trying to breathe through the tightness in my chest. I felt sick, actually sick, like the room was tilting around me. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't overthinking it. Someone else had already carved their way into her life, leaving marks I wasn't supposed to see, but the worst part was that a small, pathetic part of me still hoped there was an explanation. Some innocent reason. Some harmless story. That hope died 2 hours later. Emma came home earlier than expected. I heard the door slam harder than usual. Her footsteps were sharp, like she was angry even before she saw me. "Daniel?" Her voice echoed down the hallway. "In here," I answered, trying to stay calm. She walked into the living room, her jaw tight, her eyes tense. She looked cornered. "Did you go through my things?" The question hit me like a punch. She knew. Somehow, she knew. My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about? Don't lie to me." Her voice cracked, not with fear, but with fury. "Someone went through my nightstand." I stared at her, stunned. "Emma, why would I?" Just answer the question. And there it was. A reaction far too strong for someone who had nothing to hide. She wasn't scared because I violated her privacy. She was scared because I had come too close to the truth. I swallowed hard. "Yes." I opened it. Her whole body stiffened. She looked at me like I had betrayed her. The irony was almost unbearable. "Why?" she whispered. But it wasn't really a question. It was an accusation. "Because you've been acting different for months," I said quietly. "Because you keep hiding your phone. Because you won't look at me anymore. Because something is going on and you won't tell me." She looked away, her jaw clenching. For a moment, I thought she might tell the truth. That she might finally break, finally explain everything. But instead, she said the one thing I wasn't prepared for. "I don't have to justify every part of my life to you." My heart sank. "Emma, what's going on?" She grabbed her phone, pressed it against her chest like she was protecting it. "You're suffocating me, Daniel. You don't trust me. You're always watching, always questioning." "I'm watching because you're hiding something. Because you're paranoid." She snapped. I took a long breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "Who gave you the necklace?" Her face drained of color. That was the moment I knew. She didn't need to speak. Her silence said everything. I stepped back, feeling something cold settle inside me. A kind of numbness that made everything feel distant. "How long?" She closed her eyes. "You're twisting things. How long?" My voice cracked despite me. She didn't answer. The silence between us felt like a wall collapsing. She finally said, barely audible, "I need space, space." The word sounded like a blade. "You already gave someone else that space," I whispered. Emma didn't deny it. She just grabbed her coat and walked toward the door, refusing to look at me. Right before she left, she said something I'll never forget. "You're pushing me away, Daniel." "Not him, not him." She didn't realize she had confirmed everything. The door closed behind her, leaving me in a silence so heavy it felt alive. And that was the moment I realized the truth. I hadn't lost her. She had already left. Now I was the only one still standing in the ruins. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling, waiting for Emma to come home, wondering whether I wanted her to walk through the door at all. Every hour that passed stretched like a wire pulled tighter and tighter between us, ready to snap. When the lock finally clicked at 2:17 a.m., I sat up, exhausted but alert. She stepped inside quietly, like a stranger entering someone else's house. Her makeup was smudged, her hair messy in a way that wasn't caused by wind. She froze when she saw me awake. For the first time in months, she actually looked afraid. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" she whispered. I was waiting. My voice was calm to calm. "Where were you?" She didn't answer. She didn't even try to invent a lie. She just placed her purse on the counter and rubbed her temples like I was the problem, like I had ruined her night. I stood up slowly. "Emma, enough. You owe me the truth." She shut her eyes like my words were knives. "I owe you space. You keep pressuring me, pressuring you for honesty." I laughed bitterly. "That's pressure now." She turned away. and that hurt more than anything she could have said. I walked closer, careful, controlled. To control. Just tell me who he is. Her breath caught. Daniel, don't. Tell me. Tell me his name. The silence felt like a confession. I stepped back. There's something inside me cracked. Not anger. Something colder. Something that felt like resignation. How long? I asked again, barely able to force the words out. She leaned against the counter, her shoulders shaking not from guilt, but from frustration. Does it matter? Yes, I said, because I've been here fighting for something you abandoned months ago. She didn't respond. A long moment passed before she finally whispered, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. My chest tightened. Then what? It just happened? You tripped and fell into someone else's arms, into someone else's bed. Her knees weakened, but she didn't deny it. She couldn't. The truth had been dripping out between every excuse for months. I sat back down because my legs didn't feel stable anymore. Why him? What did he give you that I couldn't? She swallowed hard. He didn't expect anything from me. You always need reassurance, attention, closeness. I feel trapped sometimes. Trapped? I repeated. By love. By pressure, she insisted. By the way you read into everything I do. By the way you look at me like you're waiting for me to mess up. My hands trembled. Emma, you did mess up. She winced, as if hearing it said out loud brought the reality crashing down on her. For a moment, I almost reached for her. Habit, maybe, or pain. But instead, I leaned back and stared at the wall behind her. Did you ever plan to tell me? She didn't answer. That was all I needed to know. I stood up again, feeling a cold determination settle inside me. I'm done begging you for honesty. If you can't tell me the truth, I'll find it myself. She stepped forward, panicked for the first time. Daniel, please don't do anything stupid. Stupid? I laughed softly. Emma, I've been stupid for months. I walked past her toward the bedroom. She followed me fast, grabbing my arm, her eyes wide. Wait, where are you going? To get answers. Her grip tightened. Daniel, stop. Please, don't go through my things again. I pulled my arm free. Then you tell me the truth. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, but nothing came out. She couldn't speak, not because she didn't know what to say, but because she didn't want to face the consequences of saying it. I turned and opened her purse. She lunged toward me, trying to pull it away, but I held it tight. Inside, her phone lit up with a notification, a name I didn't recognize. A man's name. A message preview. Did you get home safely? Wish we had more time. My whole body went numb. Emma's hand covered her mouth. Daniel, please. I clicked the message. More appeared. A thread going back months, plans, secrets, pictures, promises, and one message in particular that shattered what was left of me. I'll tell him eventually. I just need the right moment. I dropped the phone like it burned my hand. Emma fell to her knees, sobbing, begging, pleading, maybe with me, maybe with herself, maybe with whatever God she believed could rewind time. I couldn't look at her. Not anymore. I walked to the living room, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. She ran after me, grabbing my shirt, shaking, crying so hard she could barely breathe. Please don't leave. I'm sorry. Daniel, please, please. I turned and looked at her, really looked at her, and realized something painful. I had already lost her long before this moment. Emma, I whispered, I don't even recognize you anymore. Her hands fell to her sides. She watched me walk out. She didn't chase me, and that hurt more than anything else. I closed the door behind me, and for the first time in months, I felt something like clarity. Not peace, not freedom, but a cold, sharp clarity that told me things would never be the same again. I didn't know where I was going. I only knew I couldn't stay. I drove without knowing where the road would take me. I didn't feel the cold or the steering wheel, or even the weight of my own body. I felt nothing and everything at once, like grief and adrenaline were fighting inside my chest. Street lights blurred into long golden strokes through the windshield, and every one of them felt like a countdown. To what? I didn't know. I pulled over eventually, somewhere outside the city, near an empty parking lot beside a closed gas station. The world was quiet, too quiet. I rested my forehead on the steering wheel and just breathed, or tried to. My breaths came sharp, uneven. I hadn't cried yet. I wasn't even sure if I could. It felt like my body was too stunned to process anything fully. I replayed everything Emma had said, every lie hidden between her excuses, every night she came home late, every moment she turned her phone away from me, every question she dodged. I realized now that all the signs were screaming at me for months. I just refused to listen. I wanted so badly to believe her, to trust her, to hold onto the version of her I fell in love with. But that version was gone. Maybe she was never real. Maybe she had only existed in my mind. My phone buzzed. Once, twice, then again. Messages from Emma, calls, voicemails. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I stared at the vibrating phone until it stopped, and the silence returned. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and felt a wave of something heavy wash over me, not anger, not sadness, something worse. Disappointment, not just in her, in myself. I let her drift away. I let myself believe her lies. I let our relationship rot while pretending everything was normal. Eventually, I drove to the only place I felt I could breathe, my brother Alex's apartment. He opened the door at 3 a.m., half asleep, confused, until he saw my face. He didn't ask anything. He just stepped aside and let me in. That's the thing about siblings. They read silence better than words. I sat on his couch, staring at the floor. He handed me water. I didn't drink it. I didn't move. Finally, he sat down across from me and said quietly, "Daniel." What happened? The words caught in my throat. I swallowed hard, tried to speak, failed. Then I whispered, "She cheated on me." He froze, his jaw tightening, but he didn't interrupt. I told him everything, or as much as I could without falling apart completely. The messages, the months of lies, the way she looked at me like I was a burden instead of her partner, the way she panicked only when she realized she couldn't hide it anymore, the way I walked out, not because I stopped caring, but because I cared too much to stay. By the time I finished, my voice was raw. Alex leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and said, "I don't know how you held on this long, because I loved her, because I thought love was supposed to hurt sometimes, because I thought loyalty could fix what was breaking, because I thought she'd choose me in the end." I didn't say any of that. I just let the silence settle. At some point, I fell asleep on the couch. When I woke up, sunlight was creeping through the blinds. My phone lay on the table with 10 missed calls and a long string of messages from Emma. I didn't want to read them, but I did. "Please talk to me. I messed up. I know. Please don't leave like this. We need to fix this. Daniel, please answer. I'm scared. I love you." That last one hit differently. Not because I believed it, but because I realized how empty those words had become. She didn't love me. Not the way she used to. Not the way I loved her. She loved the comfort I gave her, the way I absorbed her problems, the way I forgave too easily. She loved a version of me that didn't question things. Alex walked out of his room and saw me staring at the screen. He asked, "Are you going back?" I shook my head slowly. "I don't know." He sat beside me. "Do you still trust her?" I didn't answer. Silence was enough. Later that afternoon, I finally drove back to the apartment. Not because I wanted to see her, but because I needed closure. I didn't want to live in the limbo of unanswered questions. I needed to face her, even if it destroyed me a little more. When I opened the door, Emma was sitting on the floor, legs pulled to her chest, eyes swollen from crying. The moment she saw me, she scrambled to her feet and ran toward me like a desperate child. "Daniel, oh God, you came back." "I didn't come back," I said quietly. "I came to talk." She froze. We sat at the table. She kept wiping her tears. I didn't cry. I couldn't. Something inside me was too numb to cold. Why him? I asked again, forcing myself to look her in the eyes. She hesitated, then whispered, because he made me feel different, free. That word tore through me, free. So I made you feel trapped, I said. No, she said quickly. Not trapped. Just responsible. Like I couldn't make mistakes around you. Like everything I did mattered too much. I cared, I said. That's the point. I know, she whispered. And that scared me. There it was. The truth she'd been avoiding. She was afraid of the weight of love. Afraid of the responsibility. Afraid of commitment. Afraid of the future we planned. Afraid because what we had was real. And real things can break. She wanted something easier, lighter, temporary. Something without consequences. Something I couldn't be. Do you want it? I asked. Her lips trembled. I don't know. That was the final knife. I stood up. Then there's nothing left for us to fix. She grabbed my arm. Daniel, wait please, we can go to therapy. We can try again. I'll end everything with him. I swear. Just don't leave me like this, Emma, I whispered. You left me long before I walked out that door. She collapsed into sobs. I stepped back. Her tears didn't pull me in anymore. They only reminded me of how many times I had cried silently while she walked away without noticing. I packed a bag. Only essentials. I didn't rush. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I moved like someone finally waking up from a long, painful dream. Emma tried to stop me, tried to hold me, tried to convince me. But there was nothing left she could say that would make me stay. When I reached the door, she whispered, I'm sorry, Daniel. I turned to her one last time. I know you are. But sometimes sorry just isn't enough. And then I left, not because I wanted to, but because I finally understood I deserved better. I didn't expect healing to feel so slow, so uneven, so heavy. I thought that once I walked out of that apartment, everything would fall into place, that freedom would feel like relief, and moving on would feel like victory. But the truth was quieter, more painful. I woke up each morning feeling like a piece of me had been left behind in that small, suffocating space I once called home. My phone stayed silent for the first few days, and I kept it that way. I muted her messages. I archived our photos. I hid everything that reminded me of her, not because I wanted to forget her, but because I needed room to breathe without drowning. Every morning I told myself the same thing. You did the right thing. You had to leave. Some days I believed it. Some days I didn't. I returned to work, pretending everything was fine. People noticed something was different. They asked if I was tired, or sick, or stressed. I just said, I'm fine, because I couldn't explain what heartbreak really felt like. How it wrapped around my ribs like a tight band. How it turned silence into noise. How it made even a quiet moment feel like a battlefield. One afternoon, I took a long walk through the city, letting the cold air sting my face. I watched strangers pass by, couples holding hands, friends laughing, families pushing strollers. For the first time in months, I watched them without comparing my life to theirs. I wasn't jealous. I wasn't bitter. I was just observing, detached but calmer. My brother eventually convinced me to go out with him and a few friends. I didn't enjoy it at first. The noise, the music, the casual flirting people around me engaged in, it all felt distant, like I was in the room physically, but somewhere else mentally. But with time, something inside me loosened. I started laughing again, even if just a little. I started talking. I started looking at people without feeling guilty, as if I was betraying someone who had already betrayed me long before. A week later, Emma called me from an unknown number. My chest tightened, but I answered. Maybe I needed to hear her voice one last time. She sounded fragile. Daniel, I know you don't want to talk, but please just listen. I didn't say anything. I just let her speak. I ended things with him, she said. I told him I couldn't do it anymore. I told him I loved you. I told him everything was a mistake. I let her words hang in the air. I felt nothing, not relief, not anger, not satisfaction. Just emptiness. She continued, I want to fix us. I'm ready to try. I'll do whatever you need. Therapy, space, honesty, anything. Just please give me a chance. I closed my eyes. For a brief second, I imagined saying yes. I imagined going back, starting over, trying to rebuild everything we destroyed. I imagined forgiving her, learning to trust again. I imagined waking up next to her, choosing her again. But then reality hit. I remembered the lies, the excuses, the nights she spent with someone else while I waited for her like a fool. I remembered how her eyes changed, how her voice changed, how I felt invisible in my own relationship. I took a breath and said quietly, Emma, I'm glad you're being honest now. I mean that. But I can't come back. She inhaled sharply. Why not? We can try. I don't want to try. I said, not anymore. Silence. Then a broken, shaking whisper, do you not love me anymore? That question cut deep, because I did love her, maybe too much. But love wasn't enough to rebuild trust that had been shattered beyond recognition. I'll always care about you, I said, but I can't trust you. And without trust, there's nothing left, she cried quietly. I didn't speak. I waited. And then softly she said, okay, if this is what you want, I'll let you go. I ended the call. Just like that. And the strange part was, I didn't break down afterward. I didn't shake, or cry, or scream. I just sat there staring at the wall, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. A peace I hadn't felt in months. That night, I wrote a long message to myself. Not a letter to her. A letter to me. You survived. You walked away. You didn't let her destroy the best parts of you. You grew. You changed. You learned your worth. It felt good to write it. It felt real. The next few weeks were a blur of rebuilding. I cleaned up my life piece by piece. No habits, new routines, new people slowly entering my orbit. I didn't rush anything. I didn't force myself to move on in the way movies show. I just lived day by day. Some days I missed her terribly. Some days I hated what she did. Some days I felt nothing. Healing isn't a straight line. One evening, I stood on my balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky orange. And for the first time since everything fell apart, I didn't think about her. Not once. I wasn't comparing life before and after. I wasn't reliving the betrayal. I wasn't wondering if she was happy or sad or lonely. I was simply there, in the moment, breathing normally, feeling like myself again. Not the broken version. Not the desperate one. Not the betrayed one. Just me. And maybe that was the real ending. Not dramatic. Not loud. Not painful. Just quiet acceptance. I didn't get closure from her. I made it myself. I didn't get happiness from her. I found it slowly without her. I didn't get an apology that fixed everything. I just got enough distance to stop needing one. I realized something important that night. Walking away wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. And for the first time in a long time, that beginning didn't scare me. It felt like freedom.